Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode with myself and Stephen. This time we feel it's quite a topical subject. This one's come up certainly to me a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen's had it before. It's called the post-holiday blues. Now, for me, I think this is a really interesting one, but as I've just jumped and given this one to Stephen about 2 minutes ago, I'd be really interested in his initial reaction. So, Stephen, when I talk to you about post-holiday blues, is that something that resonates, and what comes to mind?
Hey everyone, hi. Do you know what? It does resonate, and I guess it really falls in the face of how do you get that positive mindset when you've had the time to chill, to relax, to downreg. And those of you that don't live in a country that is blessed with great weather, maybe when you've been on holiday, you've been surrounded by lots of sunlight, which in itself makes you feel more happy, more positive. You've been able to spend some really quality time with loved ones. You've been able to have those conversations that you don't necessarily have when you're in the day to day. You've been able to reflect a lot more around life itself. Um, I actually remember having a holiday many, many years ago where I was lying on a beach, taking in all of that beautiful sun and improving my melanin. And I started to write a bit of a journal. And what was quite interesting was I found myself able to think clearer because of the situation and the environment that I was in. So I just kept on writing and writing and writing and writing, and it was a real positive experience. And then, as soon as I got back home, I lost all of that. I stopped doing my journal. I didn't have the right kind of mindset or environment to carry it on. And, that is the post-holiday blues because what happens is you return to normality and it's a bit of a shock to the system. It's almost like while you were away, someone was giving you some extra energy and plugging you in every day, and you were just smiling more, and you were having these great conversations. You were eating food that perhaps you wouldn't normally eat. You were doing things slightly different in the day that you would normally do. You're having conversations with people from all walks of life. Generally, when you're on holiday, you sometimes meet people from other parts of the world, and you will communicate slightly different because you probably don't speak the same language. So all of these things drive into the holiday blues when you get back. However, what it does also say, and something for us to think about, Oliver, is we actually have the power to create the holiday environment back at home if we really wanted to. So there's something in that around actually we do control it. Okay, we can't control the weather, granted, but we can control the conversations. We can control potentially what we do. We can read that book that we read on holiday if you really, really wanted to. You could listen to that podcast that you listened to on holiday if you really, really wanted to. You could change your diet and eat slightly different food. Generally, when you go to some country, especially Spain or Greece or some of those places in Europe, where their food is very, very different, you actually end up eating healthier when you're away, not necessarily unhealthy. But why can't you buy those foods? So what I'm saying is the holiday blues is a real thing, but I caveat that with some of the things you do on holiday you can do when you get back to combat those holiday blues. So that I know that was going around the house a little bit, but I always like to give a few solutions as well. So
Mm.
hopefully that was what you were thinking, Oliver, when you thought about this subject matter.
Absolutely. That's the reason for bringing it up, because it's relevant, because I think a lot of people, summer is the time where that really kicks in, and by the time this episode goes out in, I think if I get my scheduling right, it's going to be the first week in September. I think, apologies if I got that slightly wrong, but it's certainly going to be in September anyway, and or close to it. And a lot of people will be having that feeling, and some of them are my clients, some of them are just friends and family that I'm talking to, and it's to not pretend that that isn't challenging. I'm not going to sort of belittle it. You've had a lovely time. Maybe you've just had a staycation here, or you've gone abroad, or maybe you've had a really big holiday. So I'm not going to try and pretend that isn't going to stick for a little bit, and that you might be missing things, and you wish you were moving to these countries and so forth. All those things are real. However, the point you made is the most valid one: is the things you did are repeatable. What it is the danger is you come back to probably listening here, the UK, and you go back into whatever your previous routines and habits were. But what you actually have now, while this feeling is lingering, you have an opportunity, and you have an opportunity to change that routine. Now, of course, there is the drastic end of the spectrum. If perhaps part of your issue is going back to the current form of work or employment or business you run, there's an opportunity to change that. That's quite drastic. I'm not necessarily suggesting that's what you should do, but obviously is one of the things you could do at the extreme end of the spectrum. But in fact, the other things that you can do is realize that part of what you enjoyed was down to certain factors, like you had more time, or you had more opportunities to communicate with the people that you liked, or you had more opportunities to meet new people. There will be things, if you sit back and reflect on, let's say, that 2-week holiday you had, there will be things that you can really pinpoint that you enjoyed. And as you say, you can find a way to replicate that, maybe in smaller ways in your current life. But the longer you leave it, the more down the old trodden path you will go, and you'll forget it and you won't do it. So yeah, maybe you started reading a book. Well, you can keep reading a book. Maybe you started eating healthier food. You can continue eating healthier food. Maybe you enjoy conversations with new people. You can still meet new people. None of these things change. Yes, the hours potentially aren't there that you had, but perhaps this is the opportunity to reflect back on what you did before you went on holiday. How helpful was it? What bad habits have you got into that you could break now? You could absolutely change those habits. So I wanted to get this one out there at this particular time to see if you and I can inspire a few people to build on the momentum. So that feeling of slight bluish misery that you've got going on there is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to cling on to the things that you really enjoyed. Now, as I said, I'm not suggesting that we should all move to the countries or the holidays or the locations that we thoroughly enjoyed. Some people might, but that is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is there is an opportunity to access some of that joy and happiness that you got whilst on whatever vacation or break you were on. And maybe some of it's as simple as spending more time with your family. You know, there's many things, but what you need to do is, whilst it's live and still a bit raw, is you need to probably make a list. You talked about journaling, but you could basically just do almost a review of whatever it was you did and whatever it is you enjoyed on that time or during that time, and then look at what you currently do and what things could you start implementing now. So that's what I wanted to bring to the table, because I think it's actually a really powerful opportunity. To make some changes or make many changes in our lives, not an opportunity to be very miserable and down on our luck. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I like that, Oliver. And one of the things that I like about what you said is it's about, and I think you can do this in all walks of life, really, and situations. It's about documenting what was good about it, or what was great about it, or what felt nice about it, writing those things down, and then saying, right, how can I replicate that in my day to day? You might not be able to do it exact, but you might be able to take elements of it and replicate it. And and that's true in life sometimes, that we don't do the things, and I talk about this a lot, we don't do the things that make us happy. Why? Because the reality is, some of those things you can do far more regular than when you do it. Okay, let's just take the one conversation. I know for an absolute fact, right, that when you go away on holiday, regardless of where you go, you have better conversations than when you're at home. 100%. What's changed? You're still the same people. And if you're in a partnership, you're still the same two people. If you're in a family, it's still the same family people. So you can definitely recreate those conversations you had. Sometimes it's about setting, sometimes it's about what's around you. Whether that's, I know when you go on holiday, sometimes you take games and you take things with you and you create a situation. You can do that at home. And then the next thing, which we've done the podcast on this before, Oliver, where people say, I got back off my holiday. I just haven't got the time that I had on holiday. I think that's a load of baloney. I
Mm-hmm.
really do. You can make time if you think that it's important. But again, you can't just like flick your fingers and make it happen. You've got to sit down and think about, okay, how can I can remember years gone by, we're on holiday. you would go out in the evening and go for a meal, and it would an atmosphere would be created, right? And there'd be the two of you. Well, I've been in a situation where the two of us, and an atmosphere was created, and it was just so amazing. And then you go home and you don't have that again, and it's like, well, you can recreate that, but what I'm saying is, it takes some thought, it takes some time to think about it, and then put it into practice. And then the other side to it, I guess, as well, Oliver, is our mindset on holiday, wherever we are, is different. And that's because we fill our heads with different things. We think about different things. So often I say to people, think about a moment or a time when you felt positive. Think about that. How does that now make you feel? So when you're on holiday or you're away from the day to day, your thinking is different because you're creating those thoughts. So you can create those thoughts wherever you are.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's about recreating those thoughts. The other side to this as well, when you're on holiday, sometimes, unless you're going to somewhere where you're going to be consuming large amounts of alcohol and waking up later, you generally wake up earlier when you're on holiday as
Mhm.
well. And you kind of have a longer day. You kind of seize the day, you kind of do more, you plan things a bit more, you fill more things into your day because you go, right, I'm on holiday, I want to make the best of it. So when you come back off your holiday, say the same thing to you. I want to make the best of this day. So what do I need to do to make the best of the day? Especially on Saturdays and Sundays. The amount of people I know on a Saturday and Sunday literally waste the day. And then
Mm.
they go, what did I do today? I didn't actually do anything. And actually, it's a great day to, and I'm not saying for one moment, fill your day with so many things that you're exhausted. But what I'm trying to get at is you have the power, if you think about it, to make your days when you come back off your holiday not blue, and recreate some of that excitement, that buzz, that non-lethargicness that you have on holiday. And and I know people are probably thinking, going, "Yeah, that's all well and good, Stephen." Okay, and I know there's people thinking, "Well, some people go on holiday to literally power down and they'll lie on a deck chair for 80% of the time, right?" Some people go on holidays where it's energetic and they're literally doing loads of things. Everyone's different. Whatever your holiday situation is, that's made you happy, there's an opportunity to carry that on. Not exactly the same, and you can't bring the weather back with you if you've gone somewhere that's really great weather, but you definitely have the power. And I think this podcast is about saying you have the power and the mindset to stay positive and fend off the holiday blues. But you have got to literally think about it. I'll just give you another one, Oliver. So, because again, I think personal experiences are great. I've even felt on holiday that I've been more tactile with my partner on holiday.
Mm.
So explain that one. So that means I've physically done something to create that. So why can't I create that back at home? So I can, when I'm thinking about it now, I can give actually situations where I absolutely did things on holiday that when I got back off holiday, I stopped doing them.
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting. A few things I made a note of while you were talking there that's triggered a few things. For those of you, most of you will be listening to this on a podcast platform, so you won't be able to see, but I can see behind Stephen, and that made me realise about one thing he's got on the wall is an amazing picture portrait of Cromer Pier, where I hope Stephen won't mind me mentioning that's where he lives, and it's a beautiful picture. And it reminded me of something that worked for me and that I know a lot of other people try, is when they've had a really great experience or they've been to an amazing place, is to have those images around them. So, and also you can use that image as a trigger to take you back to that time when you were happy. Yes, obviously you've then got to work on yourself to make sure you don't get yourself depressed that you're not there anymore, but you can use that as the trigger to give you some sort of positive thinking. And I have the same, weirdly, on my email profile. It's a picture of a beach that I was on about 6-7 years ago, and I've still got it there. It was an amazing sunset, lovely beach, triggers me into a really great 2 weeks that I had with family, and a place that I've since been back to. But every time I look at that, it's impossible for me to come away feeling unhappy because it takes me back to a time when I was really, really happy. So you mentioned mindset, and I'm thinking about visualization here. So potentially, if you've got a picture of that amazing thing or that a group picture of a time when you were all really happy. Have that picture somewhere really attainable, so that you can pick it up and take yourself back to that place and that feeling. Honestly, it really does work. So that was the first thing that came to mind. The second thing that made me smile is you were talking about activities that you potentially do, and I can point to our own family holiday that we had this year, which again was a great success. Really enjoyed ourselves. In previous episodes, you'll have learned that it's made me turn social media off, because I just enjoy being off it so much. But one thing that we did is we did jigsaws. Now, we are not a family that does jigsaws, but we did. And the weirdest thing is my wife, who works at a local university, has enjoyed it so much. She's taken jigsaws to work, and it is now an activity that everybody in the department that she's in partakes in these jigsaws. And whenever they're on a break or they have a moment's time, someone's in there doing the jigsaw, and there's an absolute clamoring now for more people to get more jigsaws in. It's become a whole thing, and people are talking to one another at work when they weren't previously on breaks, because they're getting involved and talking about the success when they've all found the really difficult bits and things like that. And that's just come from, looking at things differently. So things can come back off a holiday and actually make a change that you wouldn't have expected, because that's a more engaged community there as well. And as a final one, someone I was playing golf with yesterday has just been to Yorkshire. And he said, "Oh, it was great. We did so much more exercise and we did so much more walking because it's much more hilly and beautiful around there." I said, "Mike, it's not like you can't walk in Norfolk, which is where we're based. It might not have the hills, although we're not as flat as everybody will have you believe. We're not. But we've got amazing coasts. You drove all the way 4 hours to Yorkshire. It's about 40 minutes to get to the coast, sometimes 30 minutes to the coast. Sometimes what's stopping you? At that point, you talked about Saturday, Sundays, weekends. Go! Do the walking, keep walking, even walk out your back door and go for a walk. Yes, all right, it's not beautiful hills and valleys, but it's not hideous around here." And he's like, "You're right. I know he won't do it, but he should and he can." So that's 3 things that came to my mind, because they're all things that we could continue to do, but we probably won't, but that's a choice. So you're kind of in that whole point. My sort of final piece on it is the holiday blues is a choice. You don't need to linger there. It is a crappy place. We've all been there. I'm not going to pretend we haven't, but there's no need to linger there. There are so many things you can do if you choose to do them to pull yourself out of it and actually make it a positive, ongoing, lasting experience. So that's my piece on it. I hopefully motivated people a little bit to think differently about the holiday blues. Stephen, would you like to finish off with some more positivity, please?
No, absolutely. And the positivity is you are in control of your mind, and it's about what you choose to think about when you come back. And what I would say to everybody, use this opportunity to think about what can you do to change the way you feel now you're back. What are the positive influences and the positive things you can do to make a difference? Because when you start thinking about it, you'll be absolutely amazed. I mean, I've seen people over the last few weeks here in Cromer that have travelled from all over the country to come, and they've been crabbing, they've been, laughing and joking on the pier as a family on the beach. I know they can't recreate the crabbing or recreate the beach, but they can recreate the laughing and joking. You can recreate that family time. And I guess it's about just thinking about how can you hold on to some of that. It doesn't have to stop, is my message. The holiday blues is because you've stopped. Continue what you're doing that made you so happy while you were away. And I tell you what, I think people will be very surprised how the positive influence that will have on your mindset, the positive influence that will have on your health, and the positive influence that will have on the relationships all around you.
Brilliant. Yeah, love that. So anyway, I hope it's done what we wanted it to do, which is give people a little bit of motivation and a positivity injection. As always, thank you very much for listening, and we will speak to you and see you all soon at the next episode. Thank you.